Actually, no, we're not. We will be in a second. We are live. Let me make sure we have the right microphone connected. We do! Let's do it. Happy Friday, guys. Hope everyone's doing super good. I'm going to tag everyone in here so that we can get started. Looking forward to talking about this today. Do this to accelerate your fat loss. When to do it, why it's happening. We'll dive into it together and get some solutions. I've been talking to if you've been on live videos this past week, you know that I've been talking to all of our clients and diving deeper into any obstacles that they need help overcoming, or what potential pitfalls have they already gotten through, but they're fearful of in the future. Like they're losing weight consistently, 1 to 3 pounds a week, but hey, what do I do if I plateau? So this doesn't have to be like you're plateauing now. This could be, hey, let me prepare for the future, right? So let me tag everyone and then we're going to get started. And as always, I love for this to be interactive. I don't want it to be just me talking at you. I know it seems like on these lives, I love hearing myself talk, but I promise you, I much prefer to be interacting. All right, let's pull this in. 1, 2, 3, tagging everyone. What to do if you plateau with weight loss. All right, tagged everyone. We'll give everyone a second or two. It sends out the notification, and we'll get going. This is something that I think is so common. This is something that's relatively evergreen. It happens, I think, probably, everyone's experienced it, but it probably happens more often than we feel, right? Or than we think. We're shooting for about 1 pound of fat loss per week. And I'll set the scene here. So why 1 pound? 1 pound because it is in my opinion and in my experience, after working with over 1,000 people, over, personally 300-ish nurses, it's the easiest way to stay consistent because the pain isn't as intense, right? And we know that human nature is to stay away from pain, conserve energy, and go towards pleasure. So, yes, you could lose 2 pounds of fat per week, but you'd have to be in a caloric deficit of 1,000 instead of 500 per day. That's intense. You could also lose 3 pounds of fat per week, not just on the scale, but 3 pounds of fat, right? It's a lot. But you'd have to be in a caloric deficit of 1,500 a day, and you'd probably hate your life. So what I recommend, because we're going to play this game forever anyway, right? This is an infinite game. Why rush it? There's no need. No need to rush. So it's more important that we just stay on the journey, because especially when we know that the majority of people that try to lose weight, especially nurses, because they have a super high stress job, and that can cause some disempowering stress, it's even more common for nurses to fall off and get, we'll say reset. So we are going to get started. If you're here, let me know in the chat, and it will be game time. And if you are watching on replay, let me know as well, and we will jump all the way in. All right. So do this to accelerate your fat loss. So the first thing is, before you see the title and you're like, all right, cool, I'm ready to do it. Make sure it's the right time, right? Because it's easy to be very zoomed in and look, this happens to me, this happens, I think, to everyone. There's logic and there's emotion. Logically, we know this is an infinite game. Of course, I'm going to, start and never stop again. But emotionally, when you've been doing everything right for 3 days, and then you step on the scale and you're up a half a pound, you're like, what the? Are you kidding me? Or even a week or 2 weeks, right? So my suggestion is look at this as a framework and try to dampen the emotions, right? So you only look to accelerate fat loss when? If this has not happened, you don't even think about it. You just stay consistent to your actions, right? When you start on day 1, you're like, I'm not even going to look on the scale until week 3, right? That you only look to accelerate fat loss either in the beginning, in the middle, at the end, when you've been consistent with those macros for at least 3 weeks, right? If you're new here, you're not familiar with what macros are. Very simple. Macros are the big things in food. Macro, think big. Macronutrient. You have your protein, your fat, and your carbs. That's it. Technically, you could say fiber, but like mainly it's like fat, carb, protein. Usually when you're starting, you're not even focused on macros because you're going to lose weight even if you just start eating more protein, because naturally your other two macros are going to go down and you're not going to be obsessed about it. So it won't. You don't even need to put that focus towards it, right? Why do we do that? Why don't we just start everyone on macros? Well, it's really simple. We always want to, you'll hear me say it 100 million times, the triad, right? Human nature is always going to go towards pleasure, away from pain, and to conserve energy. So we want to give you the easiest route, the least to focus on, have you get results, and then have your brain go, what? If I was doing that much and I got this much results, what happens when I do more? And then you want to do more, and that creates a positive feedback loop, and you're on your way. So only when you've been consistent for 3 weeks with the same macros. So this means if you're in the very beginning and it's been 3 weeks, or it wouldn't be that long, but like 2 weeks and you haven't lost weight, well, it might be time, if your sleep is in the right place, right? You guys probably remember I talked about yesterday. If you haven't seen it, we can go look at it after. But actually, I'll pull it up even right here, right? The 3 levels, right? We have the levels here. Where is it? There you go, program levels, right? So we have these program levels. It's like once you've gotten to minimum, like really level 2, once you've gotten to 49 hours of sleep a week, once you've gotten to 0.6 times your protein in grams of your goal weight, 0.6 of your water, 0.6 of your goal weight in ounces for water, and you're disempowering stress lower than a 6, can you look to incorporate macros? Until you've gotten to that level 2, and you've maintained it for at least 2 weeks, don't even think about macros. It's not the most important thing. The reason I created these levels was because I wanted to easily allow you to say, okay, this is the next most important thing to focus on, whether you're a client or not. This deserves all my attention, right? Not like meal timing, right? You'll notice that actually through all these levels, meal timing doesn't matter. Now, you could argue it matters for how you feel, and that's true, but that's not going to affect your results as much as what I have written. So let's keep going here. And actually, let me pull that up. I'm going to bring this here as well, just so we have this. 1 second. Program levels. There we go. Just in case we need this again. I want it like super close. All right. So only when it's been 3 weeks and you have had macros. So again, this, let's put this here. You've graduated level 2. All right. You've graduated level 2. And you've been using macros for 3 weeks with tracking, not just eyeballing. If you haven't been tracking and you've just been assigned your macros and you've been eyeballing, well, it's time to track. You can't accelerate until you track, right? Because you don't know what you're doing. And that doesn't mean track forever. That's just so you can gain awareness. And there's no change in your clothes. This is crucial because a lot of the time, I mean, this is super common. I have clients of mine, nurses, even people that aren't clients, just in the community, right? Nurses that are here. And they'll say like, hey, I'm worried that I'm not making progress because my weight hasn't budged in 4 weeks. And it's like, fantastic. If it's a client, one of the things I'm always doing is saying, okay, we have the scale as a measurement, but also we have clothes as a measurement. So that t-shirt that you said was fitting like a 2 out of 10, meaning not good, barely fit, hugging you tight, right? You wouldn't wear it out. How's it fitting now? If it's a 7 and your weight hasn't gone down, you've been losing fat, gaining lean body mass. What is lean body mass? It's anything that's not fat in your body. Mainly the 3 things are going to be bone density, which is very slow. It's usually not that. Water weight, which you want. You want water weight. Water weight is not bad. Hydration is good for your muscles, for your brain, for your cells. It's beautiful. And then last one is lean muscle, right? Muscle. You want all of those things. So only if you've been tracking for 3 weeks, same macros, you've graduated level 2. We talked about what level 2 was, right? Doing this for at least 2 weeks. Why not only a week? Because guess what? Emotional storms can come in week 2 and throw you off your game. And guess what? Your system sucked. So now you have to go back and fix your system, which is good. It's going to happen. This is why we don't start you at level 8. because the chances of you staying consistent are slim to none. Why? Because we've tested it, right? This isn't just me telling you this because it makes me feel good. It's like, this is what we've tested. I've been a coach for over a decade. So you've graduated level 2 and you've seen no change in close, plus your disempowering stress is lower than a 5. Why do we want your disempowering stress to be lower than a 5? Because if you are stressed, right, and there's good stress and bad stress, and actually all types of stress push cortisol, right? Like working out is a good stress, but it's also cortisol producing, right? It's not a bad thing, but we want to manage it. So I would even back this up and I would say just stress, right? And it is true that if your disempowering stress is lower, right, the emotions you're experiencing of fear, anger, sadness, you're experiencing those less, your disempowering stress is low, you can actually experience and deal with more positive stress, right? Or growing stress, which is like exercise, right? But we still want to keep our overall stress below a 5, because if you're too stressed, your cortisol is on slow drip, right? All through the day, and you can't lose fat. Hormones control a lot, but you don't need exogenous hormones, or you don't need, things that influence. You don't need to take something or inject something that influences your internal hormones. You have a lot of control over your hormones just with your lifestyle. So, in my opinion, exogenous hormones are the last thing we do. Absolutely. Am I against them 100%? No, I'm not. There are some cases where it can be applicable, right? But I'm talking less than 1% of the time. 99%, actually more than 99% of the time, in my experience, you can solve for getting the body you want without exogenous hormones. That has been my experience with the clients that I've worked with. Now, granted, is it easy? No. When I say is it easy, like, is it easy to move from believing that your self-worth is, like, I'll just give you an example. It's like, this is a lot more than fitness. Like, if we have a story that says I am only worth something if I sacrifice myself and take care of others, well, that's an internal conflict that has to be solved. That is a story that no longer serves you. And this sounds pie in the sky and weird psychology stuff, but like, this is the real stuff in some cases that we need to address to fix, what you're doing, I'll say, unconsciously, So you fix all that stuff and then, it makes all this easier. So a lot of the time, like, I know it sounds funny, but a lot of the time in coaching, it's not about like calculating your macros perfectly. It's about creating a more solid foundation so you can actually build. If you've ever seen a builder, what's the first thing they do, right? You're going to build a house. What's the first thing you're going to do? Do you start installing the windows? Do you start putting on, building the frame? No, what's the first thing you do? You make sure it's flat and you bat it down and you build say it with me in the chat. Come on. Whether you're live or on replay, let me know in the chat. You build your what? Foundation, right? We know it. We all know that. We would never build a house on sand. That would be crazy. Now, the higher the house you're going to build, the better the foundation needs to be. Think of skyscrapers, right? They don't just go into a plot in New York and go, this looks good. Let's start building up. Because what would happen? The higher you build, eventually you got the wind coming and crashes. So what do they have to do? They have to dig deep first. So did you know that like the majority of the, or maybe not the majority, but a huge amount of time on the skyscraper is actually built underground? They have to go deep before they can go up. The problem with that is it doesn't show in the external world, right? We all want to see immediate results. So sometimes when you spend the first 4 weeks building your foundation and getting something really solid into the ground so that you can actually build up and it stands the test of time. Like, how silly would it be if in New York they would spend all this time and money and resources to build a skyscraper and they build it up to, let's say, let's say they build it up to 50 feet or 100 feet. And then the first tropical storm comes with some heavy wind and blows it over. They wouldn't, of course they wouldn't do that. So why would you? Doesn't make any sense. Let's build this for the last time. Let's not build a house of cards, right? So let's dig deep first, solve it, and then build up from there. If you guys are in the chat watching live or on recording, has anyone done this, right? Has anyone experienced this? That man, once they worked on their base, they could actually build something that was more solid, right? Like, it's not just me trying to, do some clever marketing when I say this is the last time that you should be starting your journey. I mean that, right? You do not need to be on this cycle of start and stop, start, stop, right? So hopefully that resonates, at least with one person out there. Ness says foundation. Yes, that's what I like to hear. It's all about the foundation, baby. All right, let's keep going. I'm just refreshing my page in case I'm not seeing what's coming up. And I know there's like a little bit of a delay here. So, recap. First, when? When do you accelerate fat loss? You accelerate fat loss when it's the right time. You have been consistent with 3 weeks with macros. You have graduated beyond level 2 for at least 2 weeks, right? This is level 2. And you see no change in clothes for those 3 weeks. Plus, your stress is lower than a 5, all right? So then we say, okay, well, first off, before we get into the how do we do it, why could this be happening? So this is very interesting. The Food and Drug Administration allows food manufacturers to include up to 20% more calories, and of course, all the things that make up calories, right? That they declare in nutrition labels. Did you know that? Very interesting. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you're shooting for 1,600 calories, at the most, that could be the difference between getting in 1,600 calories and 1,920 calories. Now, that's not enough to eliminate all your fat loss because a caloric deficit, let's say your maintenance calories is 2,100, right, to maintain your weight. 1,600 would be a caloric deficit of 500 a day, and you'd be losing essentially 1 pound of fat per week, right? The scale can do a bunch of stuff because you're gaining lean muscle, gaining water, losing water, whatever, fluctuates a ton. That's why you can lose 5 pounds 1 week and be like, I'm doing so well, and then do the same exact stuff and next week gain 2 pounds. You didn't gain 2 pounds of fat, I promise you, if you've been doing the same actions. There's no shot. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. But what can happen is you just dehydrated yourself because you were doing more activity last week, less water, and then this week you increased your water, and your weight went up, even though technically your clothes are fitting better, right? So again, thinking about 1,600 a day or 1,920, right? Then you add in eyeballing a few things instead of using a food scale in the beginning or at level 3. And then having a few quick bites or a couple quick licks, right, of some things. And then bam, you're in no caloric deficit. And we feel like, oh my God, this isn't working. But that's the crazy thing. When things aren't working, you're 1 millimeter away. Think of it like a golfer, right? A golfer goes up to the tee. Why is it that to our eye, if we couldn't see that ball take off into the distance, every single swing they do looks exactly the same? To me, at least. I'm not a golfer, right? The difference between that ball going on the fairway exactly where they want it to be, see, my dog's excited, he knows, and it going into the what would that be called? The sand traps and the trees is 1 millimeter. It's literally the difference. Everything's the same amount of swing, same amount of force, same amount of power. Everything's the same. The difference is whether their body was here or here. I'll do it one more time. Here or here. See that difference? Same is true with you. If you are not losing weight, I promise you, you don't need to rework everything and go back to square one. You'd probably just need to be 1 millimeter over here. What an empowering belief, right? We talked about this already earlier in the week. There's 3 things that control you. Your state, or control your results. Your results in anything, but we're talking about weight loss, right? Your story, your strategy, and your state. This is your story, right? Imagine if your stories are your beliefs. Imagine if you had a belief that no matter what was going on, if you're not getting the result, you're 1 millimeter off, which is usually the case in my experience. So what do? Well, you're going to reduce calories from fat and carbs by 300 a day, and you're going to keep protein the same. Why do you keep protein the same? Because the requirements that your body still has to repair itself is the same. So why would you reduce protein? You're going to keep protein the same. It's going to keep you fuller longer. We all know this. But you're going to reduce by fat and carbs. In my opinion, you reduce about 2/3 from fat, 1/3 from carbs. And the reason you do this is because carbs, generally speaking, are going to keep you fuller than fat. And when you're in a caloric deficit, I don't want to say the most important thing, but one of the most important things is satiety. You don't want to be stuck in a position where you feel like you're hungry all the time, right? And that's a whole nother talk. What does hunger even mean? It's like you have physical cues and you have emotional cues. Are you actually hungry, or is your body just used to eating at this time? Therefore, you are like habitually hungry. That's a different kind of cue than I have not eaten enough and I am, I need food, right? And then there's the emotional cue of like, hey, I'm stressed, disempowering stress. Like, okay, I'm gonna go eat something to feel better, right? It's important that we learn to identify this, because it's these nuances that allow us to take different actions, right? It's powerful stuff. Is this resonating with anyone? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And I appreciate you guys being here, whether it's live on recording, because the more watch time that these videos get, like the more time people watch and the more likes and the more comments, the more that it shows it to people in the group. I know it sounds crazy, but we have like 18,000 or 17,000 people in the group, and only like 100 people see this. So if you do think it's beneficial, feel free to, just like and comment and engage, and more people will see it, and you'll help us push our mission forward to create 1,000 super nurses, right? Impact 10 million patients. Let me know if this makes sense. I'll go to the comments. I know it's a Friday at 12 p.m., so timing might be a little off. But I see your eyeballs. I can see you guys watching. Hopefully this has been beneficial. May not go live tomorrow. May go live Sunday. Tomorrow might be an off day. Try to go live almost every day. But at the same time, don't want to just go live for the sake of it. I want to make sure I'm delivering some type of value to you guys. So whether this is live or on recording, feel free to drop a comment if there's any questions you have, comments, whether you're a client or not. I want that to be clear. I'm here to serve you. I want to make sure that you can get everything you want. And that does, in my opinion, transcend just physical body, right? It's physical body, but then above that, we have our emotions, right? And the meaning we associate to things. That's our experience of the world, our body. If you have vibrant energy and you feel great, and you associate, we'll say, positive things to life, things don't happen to me, they happen for me, life is a learning experience, whatever it might be, then yeah, you're going to have a better life. So I want to help you with each part in any way I can. But that's it. Check the comments one more time. Boop, boop. I know there's quite a delay on here. So I'll see you guys. Love you all. And if you